Hello, everyone. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the shared feature on MCX Cloud to create a reusable simulation. To start, go to our website, mcx.space. Now you can see on the front page, we added a green colored button, and that goes to the MCX Cloud Interface. So click on that. There is a short introduction. If you want to go to the MCX Cloud Interface, click on this button, and that will show you the main menu of MCX Cloud. So in the previous tutorial, you can see from this link, I give you a introduction to some of the main features, including browse, create, looking at the JSON input source file, how to run simulation, and how to preview the simulation configurations. So today I'm going to primarily talk about share. But before that, I want to just show you a very small usability features options. If you click on this options, there is a menu pop up on the left side. And using this menu, you can configure the style, the feel and look of this interface. Especially there's a theme. You can choose one of the several themes, and this is a default theme, but you can choose, for example, one of the popular style library called Bootstrap. You can use one of these Bootstrap styles, and you can see the fonts, and especially when you go to the JSON editing interface, and these interface, the gadgets have different look and feel, and you can go change it to a different version of Bootstrap, or go back to the default. So this is just for user interface fine tuning. Now, the main feature I would like to discuss is share. So what is share? Share is a interface that a user can create a simulation and submit to our simulation library. And that simulation library I showed you in the previous tutorial, and when you click on the browse tab, and this will download some pre-configured simulations, and these simulations are submitted by either the system administrator like me, or if some user would like to share their simulation, they can use the share tab to submit. Okay, so let's to start. Let's go to the sort of the default simulation. If you don't load any of the simulation from the library, you can see that MCX by default created a trivial simulation of 60 by 60 by 60 millimeter cube with filled with air. So this is the default configuration, and then you can customize it. And once you customize it, you can preview, you can run. But once you feel that the simulation would be beneficial for other people to reproduce, for example, if you create a simulation and then you use it in a publication, and you want to let people to download and reuse it, or in the future modify or improve it, you can actually submit that simulation to our library, and then other people will be able to browse it. Just as an example, I'm going to use one of our past publication. This is one of my students wrote a paper using a non-local mean filters to do denoising. So I like to add some of this benchmarks used in that paper into the library. So let me first browse our this paper. So it's in the wiki, and we have a citation page, and I search for denoise. So this is by my student Yaoshen Yuan, and that was published on JBO in 2018. And this is the paper. So I already downloaded. Basically, in the paper, we created 3 benchmarks. One is homogeneous domain. One is a cubic absorber embedded in this domain, and then there is another inclusion that is have a refractive index contrast. This one has mu A absorption contrast. So I would like to create these benchmarks and then submit to our library. Then people, if they wanted to compare with our results, and they can reproduce these results by downloading the simulations. Okay, so let's look at the simulation settings, the domain settings in these. So in this paper, we have 3 benchmarks: B1, B2, and B3. And then B1 is the homogeneous case. It's 100 by 100 by 100 cube. And with these optical properties. And in the second domain, which has an absorber, cubic absorber, that is a 40 by 40 by 40, and located in this place with 5 times absorption contrast. And similarly, there's a B3, and we have a refractive index, artificially increase the refractive index to show the edge preservation of our filter. Okay, so let's start with creating this B2 absorber. This is the absorbing cube inside a homogeneous cubic domain. All right, so let's go to the Create tab. And now from this default setting, we have the 60 by 60. Now we need to increase it by 100 to 100. And 100. This is the cube that used in the denoising paper. And in addition, we have inclusion, and that inclusion, I'm going to create another object, and it's a box, and that has a size. Let's say the tag is the label is number 2, and this background is number 1, and then this inclusion is number 2, and the size is 40 by 40 by 40. And the origin of this is at 30 10. So the cube is basically as described in our paper, the cube is centered at 50 50 30. So this is the starting, basically the one of the diagonal corners of that cube. And then you can go to preview. You can see this is the 100 by 100 by 100 domain, and then I have absorber, and that's 40 by 40 by 40 absorber. Okay, so now I need to move the source. I need to go to my create and go to my optode, and I change the source position to the center 50 by 50 50 0. And the direction is not is unchanged, pointing upward. So that is the source, and then when you preview it, you're going to see now the source is in the center of the bottom face. Now I'm going to set optical properties. So according to the paper, the optical properties of the background cube has these parameters. So I'm going to type it in. Let's close this tab. I'm going to go to create and then domain. And this is label 0. This is the background that is outside of the domain, simulation domain, and that is assumed to be air. This is label 1, and that has 0.02 per millimeter. Let's see, 0.02, and this is 10.9, 1.37. So it's 10.9, 0.37. Okay, So now I have actually have a observer that is labeled 2, and that has 5 times contrast, which is absorption contrast. That means makes it 0.1 per millimeter, and these are the same. Okay, so that's the simulation, the domain setting. But let's first run this and let's see if it runs, because in order for you to share, you see that you must first successfully run that simulation before this button become clickable. So let's let's run the simulation and see if everything works. Okay, so when you click on submit, and this is submitted to our cloud server, and it's going to be executed shortly by a cron job script. So now it's when that says created, that means it's being executed. Okay, it's done. So now you can see the simulation output. And this is the observer. And then you can roughly see there is a small darker cube, but its photon number is very low. So we have only 10 to the 5th photon. So let's increase it 10 to the 7th. 1, 2, yeah. So let's well, and let's just give it a name. This is called noise paper observer B2 benchmark. Okay, so let's update and then run it again. I can clear the lock using this button, and then I'll launch it again. This is now 10 to the 7th photon. And then it's going to be launched again, and will be picked up by the script. Okay, it's done. And now this time it took about 2.5 seconds. And when you look at the simulation, and this looks a little bit more, yeah, so you can see more photons and a little bit smoother. Okay, so let's just verify if we have all the optical property set properly. 0.9, and this is 40 by 40. And well, in the simulation, in this benchmark, we actually run 10 to the 8th. Or we run a range of number photons from 10 to the 5th to 10 to the 8th. So here we just run 10 to the 7th. Okay, so now this simulation looks good, and what you can do is you wanted to create a entry in our library so that you can share this simulation with the community, and everyone in this have access to MCX Cloud will be able to download and reproduce your results. So now to do that, you go to the share link. You can see that there is a thumbnail that that come from actually when you first click on the preview tab. But now because I'm already make changes, so I click on this draw last input. So earlier what what it shows is the output. And now if we draw this, click on the domain preview, you're going to see the configuration of the domain. So this is a preview of the simulation. I would like to use that as the thumbnail before I submit. So I click on this button called Update Thumbnail. So after click on it, you can see this share tab, this thumbnail is updated. Okay, so then all you need to do is fill out this short form to tell users what is the keywords and the title of this, what is a short description and citation information, and your name, email, and something that in the future people can acknowledge. More importantly, you also wanted to choose one of the permissions so that if a user decided to use your simulation, whether they should acknowledge this submitted data. So I'm gonna just start filling this form, and I'll submit it. I'll show you how to submit it. Okay, I just finished typing this form. You can see I give a brief title. I'm including some of the keywords in used related to this simulation, and then make a very brief title. And then in the description, I mentioned about the citation information, the URL to download the paper, and some highlights of the features in the simulation. If you have something that, for example, this a simulation simulate particular type of tissue, where the tissue optical properties are derived, where the anatomy data was derived, what was the upstream authors or paper citation that the data was derived from, you need to include that information. After typing these to the title and description, you need to fill out some additional fields, and this is your name and your email, etc. So I encourage you, everyone, use supply your full name and email address so that in the future, if this simulation is reused, people have an opportunity to acknowledge your simulation. So let me just type in my information here. Okay, so the next, very importantly, you need to choose a license. A license is basically the permission, what you allow people to do after you submit this. And if people download your simulation, what can they do? There's three options. One is the most relaxed. So the public domain means I don't care, you just use it for whatever purpose. You don't need to acknowledge. And there's basically it's in the public domain. You give up your copyrights for this particular sort of design, but yeah, in this case, I choose this public domain because it's such a simple domain here. Alternatively, you can choose CC BY or CC BY SA. Both of these are Creative Commons. CC means Creative Commons. BY means people need to acknowledge your authorship. And if BYSA, that means by someone and share alike. And you can, people can reuse, adapt it, but they need to acknowledge my authorship, and then their modified version has to be also released under this the same license, CC BY SA. That's what share alike means. Basically, they are locked into this license. So in this case, it's a very simple domain, and I'll just put it in the public domain. All right. So now after filling this field form, and this button is now active, and you can click submit, and it says your simulation data have been recorded. And when you click OK, now you can actually go to the browse tab and see if you can see it. So I'm going to search, and I'm going to download simulations from my library, and now the submitted newly submitted simulation is now appearing at the end of my downloaded simulations. And this is because it's ranked based on popularity, meaning that the more people downloaded, executed, the more it's ranked higher and being loaded first. So this is the new simulation that is loaded at the bottom. So when I click on this one, you can see that this information I just submitted is now listed on this under this panel, and you can see there's a title, and then this description is now listed here. You can see some of these the text information I typed in are formatted. If there's a link, it recognizes the link and make it a hyperlink. If there's a star at the beginning of a line, it becomes a bullet point. The license is CC0, it's public domain. Okay, so now I can load it, and then you can see that now the simulation is reloaded from the library. If you go back to the share tab, you can see that these user submitted information associated with this simulation are also being copied, and also at the bottom of that information, there's we still have some bugs on handling Unicode, but you can see that this is reloaded from the server, and then at the end they're adding something related to the history of the simulation. So if you want to modify it, you can add your new name, etc. And then this previous author's information will be appended at the end of the description. Okay, so that's the share feature. I hope that you can, if you use MCX to create simulations, I'm hoping that you can submit your simulation to this library, and then to facilitate users reusing it or reproducing the results. I want to also show you a quick feature here. If you create a simulation from the the procedure I showed you earlier, and once you load this data and then you type update form, and this link is actually pointing to a unique link that is associated with your JSON input. So if you open this link in a new tab, and then you can see that in this new simulation, in this new tab, it's actually automatically load the JSON file that you created. So basically, using this link, you can copy the link address, and this link address actually include your simulation in this hex, in this encoded message here. This is this link actually allow people to exactly reproduce what you're seeing in your tab. And you can share this link to, for example, to our user forum. If you report an issue, you can copy paste this link, and then we can click on that link, and we can actually exactly see your JSON input, and then help you debug it. You can also share that in other places like social media. For example, I can go to my Twitter, and then I can basically I can tweet, say, check out this. Oops. Simulation. Check out this cool simulation. Okay, so now this simulation contains this long link, and then you can click on that, and you can see that this link, when people click it, and they will be able to go directly to this the simulation preview. You can actually change this parameter tab equals preview. That means when you load that simulation, it will automatically switch to this preview tab. But if you use, for example, JSON or browse, and that will automatically go to the JSON tab, and the content of this is encoded in this data parameter. Okay, so to be able to share this link will allow facilitate our support, and then allow you to share your simulation to the community. Hopefully, these demos are helpful for you to use MCX Cloud, and let me know if you have any questions. I forgot to mention, the URL, this link feature only works for short JSON files like this one. If the data contains large volume data, for example, if I can load this one, this one, when you load it, you can see that the JSON file contains a binary array that is very long string. So if you have this this JSON file, and then we click on update form, and this link will be too long for the browser to use. So if you type in this URL, and it will complain that this URL is too long. So you cannot, so far at this point, we can only share short JSON input files as a link, not the long ones. Okay.